I was thinking in my mind, hearing all these things, and one particular poem came to mind, and it's Alfred Lord Tennyson's Ulysses. And think of it this way. Odysseus, or Ulysses, was this warrior, and he's battled, but now time has passed. And at the end of the poem, Tennyson says, though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that which in old times moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. The most intense guy I know. We love you, Jim.
Yeah.
You know, this week didn't start out so great. I learned that once again the Vatican did not select me. It was very disappointing. But having your face stamped on an M&M is just about the next best thing. So, thank you for that, Donna. Good evening, and welcome. Welcome to our home. When Donna told me she was going to throw a 50th birthday party for me, I really didn't think anybody was going to show up. No, I really didn't. If I would have known all you were going to show up, we would have had pizza. This is ridiculous. Vasquez has been up there about 3 times, and we are paying for every one of them. This is my first birthday party I have ever had. My father was a smart man. He didn't tell us it was our birthday until we were 18 years old. It has been an incredible journey that's brought me here before you this evening, and I have a lot of people to thank. I first want to thank God. I hear a lot of new believers speak of their personal relationship with God. I have always had a personal relationship with God. As a little boy, I would talk to him incessantly, especially when I was in the batter's box, at the free throw line, or about to ask a pretty girl to dance. But at this time, I don't want to ask for anything. I simply want to say thank you for all that I have. Any success I have ever had, any success I will ever have, I owe to my parents. How do you thank 2 people who sacrificed everything so you could have the greatest childhood imaginable? The stories of my mom's toughness are legendary. She gave birth to 9 kids. The last 2 came out sideways. But tonight, I prefer to tell a story of my mom's kindness and compassion. I remember when I moved out here from Pittsburgh, my father never thought it got cold enough to turn on the heater. But as many of you know, it can get pretty cold here in Southern California during the winter months. I remember lying in bed with my brothers, nuts to butts. We'd be just trying to feel the warmth off each other's bodies. But on more than one occasion, I recall waking up in the middle of the night to see my sweet mother sneak into our room, tiptoe up to our bed, and drop another brother on top of us. It was rough. In a surprise move, my mother recently announced that I was her favorite child. It was
I'm serious.
It was a long time coming, but it always wasn't that way. Mom, do you remember my first day at kindergarten?
Yeah.
And I know Jason kind of stole my thunder and talked about it, but I'm going to give you a couple of the details.
Well, it was your turn to ride. You said it was your turn to ride the train.
That's right. I'll tell it. Do you want to tell it? You want me to tell it? Okay. Okay. In the old days, or at least at our house, My parents didn't walk us to school on the first day. They didn't take our picture or hold our hands as we began our journey into academia.
Get rid of you.
That's right. Exactly. My parents would escort us off the property, and I would dutifully walk 10 paces behind my sister Joyce and my brother Johnny on that long trek to Workman Memorial Elementary School. Well, on the first day, I was a little bit hesitant to walk into the kindergarten area, and I remember my brother John walking me up there and kind of shoving me in and says, "Don't embarrass the family name." Well, I walked into the classroom, and right away, I wasn't buying what the teacher was selling. But I knew that soon the bell would ring and recess would come, and that's the time that I could really shine. I saw some of the classmates riding bikes, and those remember shiny silver bikes they used to have on this painted black top. They had a little track there. So I sat there and watched for a while. There was no football games going on or anything, but so when the kid jumped off the bike, I cut in line, jumped right on the bike, and started ripping around the school, scaring all the girls, popping wheelies, this and that. Well, I remember Miss Shively grabbed me from behind while I was riding the bike, says, "Jimmy, what are you doing?" And I said, "Really, I'm out of here." So I took off running. As I approached the gate there, I knew I wouldn't be able to manipulate it. You've already heard I'm not very mechanical. So I scaled the chain link fence about 8 feet. I remember this is my first day of kindergarten, but I had enough. So I started taking off running home. We were about a mile away from home, but I knew the way. So started running, and that teacher quickly gave up. I was pretty quick back then. And so now I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm walking as I got to my street, and then all of a sudden the principal pulls up to my side, and she's, "Jimmy, get in the car, get in the car." So I said, "No way." I took off through a couple of houses, and I ended up in my yard, but like often happens to me in my life, it's a quandary. Now, I can't go inside the house because my mom would figure out pretty quickly I was back in an hour, and I couldn't turn around because the principal was coming, so I kind of hid underneath the little Volkswagen as Jason was talking about it, and they spoke for a while. The principal drove up into the driveway. My mom came out and met her, and I heard my name a couple times. It got a little loud. My mom, the whole time, she was pretty sharp lady. She knew I was underneath the car. And so finally, the principal pulls away, and I'll never forget, my mom looks at me, and she said, "Jimmy, this is your first day in kindergarten. You're going to be in prison one day." Well, I never made it to prison. Well, check that. I was in jail one time, but never convicted. At the end, my wife didn't believe this story, so I showed her my report card from kindergarten, if you can imagine. And on the report card, the teacher wrote, "Jimmy seems to actually enjoy fighting with the other students." And it was true. And the teachers. You know, when the sheriff announced that I was going to be promoted to captain, there was a loud moan from the department members. They were asking, "They promoted who?" Well, the three people who screamed the loudest were my father, who certainly turned over in his grave upon hearing the news, and my two training officers. Now, both my training officers said they'd be here tonight, but I guess they didn't like me as much as I thought. But they were shocked, but none of them realized that even though I wasn't great, I was a witness to greatness. I was talking to my buddy, Jimmy Hemmold, who couldn't be here tonight, that Phil Barth was my training officer, and that the other one was Louis Aguilera. And the thing that amazed me about him was that it didn't matter whether we were in a pursuit, whether we were being shot at. They were always so cool. They never lost their cool. Now, being from a family of 9 children, I knew chaos, but I was usually the cause of it. But now, thanks to the people who trained me up as a young deputy, like Al Garcia and Frank Gomez, when the walls feel like they're closing in on me at East LA Station, I think of these people, and I say, "Namaste, namaste." I knew greatness growing up. I had coaches like Bill Viverto, who, who, uh, who personified the word intensity, and Rick Brown, who is the Christian man that I aspire to be. For him to get up here and say nice things about me is absolutely incredible, because let me tell you, I was something of a jerk in high school. But anyway, I learned how to be a man from the greatest generation. Men like my father, Walter Castro, he couldn't be here tonight, not feeling that well. Tom Foley, Carrie and Aaron's father, Richard's father. They all had a great influence on me. I learned true leadership from businessmen like my father-in-law, like the mayor, Dave Perez, like Charlie Klanakis. I truly appreciate all of you. I have a small but great group of friends. If you look at them, they're not particularly handsome, but they're all smart, and I learn from them. If it's true that a man is measured by the caliber of his friends, then I am indeed flattered to be associated with this bunch. I want to thank my in-laws, who for some strange reason loved and cared about me from the very start. I know some people think it's odd that 3 brothers married 3 sisters. I've heard all the jokes that our family tree has no branches. It's like a palm tree, it grows straight up. But for us, it couldn't be more natural. You see, the John Dominicos share the same values as the Wolaks: faith, family, and football. Okay, well, 2 out of 3 is not bad. I want to thank my brothers and sisters. I feel like I've had a strong influence on each of them. They watch me and they learn what not to do. We were a large family living in a small house. I will tell you that I never slept alone until I got married. Even though the Wolaks fight quite a bit, my brothers and sisters are my best friends. When we're together, every day's a holiday and every meal's a feast. But the good news is the Wolak story has yet to be written, because each of our nieces and nephews are destined for greatness. Okay, I'll tell one Wolak story. We got a bunch of them. So my dad, who was a hard man, he was a major in the military, and we were very scared of him. He made the mistake of buying us a BB gun. But he had one rule. He says, listen, you will not touch this BB gun unless I'm out there to supervise. So the next day when he left for work, I was in his closet, and I grabbed that BB gun, and I went out to the backyard. Let me tell you something, I shot everything that was moving. Butterflies, hornet's nests, birds, everything. Well, I got tired of killing things, and so I lined Janet's dolls up across, the Barbie dolls, up across the metal trash cans, if you can remember the old metal trash cans. So I guess on one occasion my aim was a little low. The BB deflects off the tin can and barely nicks my brother Jeff in the back of the leg. So even though I knew the brothers would never snitch, Janet was there, and you could never really trust that she might go to my dad. So now I was very, like I mentioned, very afraid of my father. So I said, listen, how do I make this up? How can I make everyone happy? So I thought fast, which was generally a mistake for me. And so I said, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I was very confident in my abilities back then. So I said, listen, Jeff, I'm going to give you a shot at me. But here's the rules. You're going to give me to a count of 3. I'm going to take off running, and then go ahead and take a shot at me. I figured, I'd zigzag. What's the worst thing you could do? Shoot me in the back? I'd rather get shot in the back than get shot in the head by my father. So I take the BB gun, cock it for Jeff, because he was very young at the time, 5 or 6. I was about 10. And I cock it for him and hand it to him, and I tried to go over the rules one more time. Well, as I'm going over the rules, I hear this, "Booyah!" And he shoots the gun right in my face, and all of a sudden, I look down, there's blood everywhere. I mean, blood everywhere, all over my hands, all over my face, my shirt. What is going on? And I go into the bathroom, I fill up the basin with blood. I'm looking in the mirror, I'm not shot though. Then I open my mouth. He had shot me right through the tongue. Well, I shouldn't say through the tongue because the BB remained. Now, once again, I'm in a quandary. I can't tell my mom and dad about this, but in a few minutes I'm going to bleed out. So I just kind of held a towel to it for a while, and about an hour later stopped bleeding, and my tongue swelled up about twice the size. If you can believe this, I didn't talk for 2 days. Now that's a miracle. Well, the BB remained in my mouth, and I got quite a lot of play of it on the recess or the playground. The girls were very impressed. And I learned in class when the teacher was lecturing, I would just sit there and roll it back and forth in my mouth. It would actually roll right underneath my tongue. Well, now you fast forward 3 or 4 years later, the BB's still there. And now it's hardened though. It won't go up and down. So I don't know. I just sleep in class now. So Johnny and I were out there playing wiffle ball. I was in the middle of pitching my 5th shutout, and Johnny has accused me of cheating, if you can imagine. And at like every game of the Wolak house, it ends up in a fight at the end. Well, Johnny's had enough. He's all, "That's it. I'm telling Mom about the BB." So he tells my mom, and she. It's funny thing is, she actually believed it like right away. It didn't like most parents be, "Oh, no way." She goes, "Let me see." So I show her the BB, and I don't know what medical school my mom went to, but she tried to remove it with a butter knife and a safety pin. And I have never been in so much pain in my life. After about an hour surgery, she could not remove the BB. It was so embedded in there. So we go down to Kaiser, and the doctor said, "What? Wait, let me hear this again." Sure enough, he cuts it out. Gives it to my mom. By that time, it's all rusty and all this. I love these parents who like worry about germs and everything. This is a rusty BB in my life for 4 years in my tongue. But so anyway, the next day, my father was not a forgiving man, and my mom handed him that BB. And surprisingly, I did not get hit. But what he did was this: he took that BB and he placed it in the middle of his dresser drawer as a symbol of his son's ignorance. And quite a bit he would remind me of that time. So I also want to recognize tonight the Pittsburgh Wolaks who came out for the event. My cousins Peggy and Mary Ann, who are both doctors, I'm proud to say, and Steve, who's a former professor, and their children, Mark and Michael, are also here. It's funny. Their family is filled with doctors, lawyers, professors, architects. I don't know what happened to the California Wolaks. When you consider most of us are still working toward our GEDs. I'm also blessed with amazing children. Ever since I made captain, I haven't been home much. I left to work early today and was able to spend a little time with them. I'm starting to get to know them, and I'm starting to get to know them personally, and they seem to be really great kids. I think it's appropriate that I say a few remarks about them. From where I come from and the things that I've done in life, it's still unbelievable that I would have a son who would one day attend the Great West Point. For those of you who don't know BJ, he is everything that I am not. He is kind, compassionate, and smart. And I truly think God put him on this earth, not for me to teach him, but for him to teach me. I have 2 wonderful daughters whose beauty is only surpassed by their kindness and gentle hearts. I'm still learning how to raise 2 teenage girls, But I was standing next to Mary back there not too long ago. And I will tell you, I have never felt the affection before like she did to me back then. Then there's Michael. He's a little bit more like me. He's kind of angry, and there's definitely a fire in him that will one day lead to greatness. But in the meantime, his mother and I try to direct his energy in the right direction. And finally, my beautiful bride of 23 years. I first want to thank her for putting this entire soiree together. I was wondering if we could just give her a hand for doing this. I can honestly say that I did nothing in the production of this, as usual, in the production of this evening.
You went golfing this morning as well.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I have been blessed with many great moments in my life, but the day I met Donna was the best of all. The thing I love most about Donna is how smart she is. I know what you're thinking. Of course she's smart. She married Jim Wolak. But I'm not talking about that kind of smart. She's smart because she's able to manage me. There's people in this world like Mike Tyson and Lindsay Lohan who have a little bit of talent, but if they're not managed properly, they'll spin off the face of the earth. That's what Donna does best. She manages me. For example, on our very first date, I'm driving and I notice she's rifling through my glove compartment and organizing the items inside. Well, she comes across an unopened bag of chewing tobacco. And she promptly dumps the contents out the window as I'm driving. Now bear in mind, this is our first date. She looks at me and says, "Oh, this stuff's bad for you, you don't want this." And I was like, well, I have recently forgiven her for that day. And when I hit my knees at night, the first thing I do is I thank God for delivering Donna to me. I would like to conclude with a story. It's a legend about a warrior chief who wanted to test the manhood of his 3 sons by making them climb a mountain as high as they could in a single day. At daybreak on the appointed day, the 3 young braves started up the mountain. Late in the afternoon, the first son returned and handed his father a flower from a spruce to show him how high he had climbed. When evening arrived, the second son returned with an alpine cone. Late that night, by a full moon, with the stars dancing in heaven, the third and youngest son returned. The father said, "Son, where have you been? What have you brought me?" Son said, "Father, where I went, there was no flowers to line my path, no pine trees to block the blazing sun from my face.